I stopped relaxing my hair. I cut all the perm out of my hair when I was 26, going on 27. But I didn't stop dyeing my hair. I wasn't ready because I had a little kind of like skunk patch right in the front. It was like a little stripe kind of coming in, which is what happened to my mom as well. Her first grade came in as a little stripe, and then it took over the rest of her head. And I was like, I'm not ready for that. So I kept dyeing my hair. So when I grew out my locks, I had black locks, I had red locks, I had honey brown locks, I had purplish locks. Like I just like my locks were whatever color. I was like, oh, that's a funky color. Let me try that. You know how you see people have different color locks, and you're just like, okay, then you're doing your thing. Yeah. So I did that for a while. And then I shaved my hair off. Right. But I kept dyeing it still. So even though I would go to the barbershop and get a cut, I would also go to CVS and get some dye because I was not trying to have short hair that was also gray. So then I grew a second set of locks. When I was pregnant with Taj, I was like, if I have another baby, I'm going to lock it while I'm pregnant. So I was pregnant at 41. Okay. And I grew my second set of locks at 41. So both sets I had for 5 years each. The first set I cut after my mom and dad passed away. It just felt really heavy. It just felt like a lot of energy to be walking with. And I was like, I don't want to wear these anymore. There's a lot of grief I associated with that set of locks. So I cut them off. And then with the second set, it grew so fast. It was almost like my hair was like, we remember being locked and we're so glad you're locking us back up. And because I was also pregnant, my hair was growing so fast. So like I came out of pregnancy with like really nice locks. Mm-hmm. And then I went through a divorce. Got separated, went through a divorce, and I was like, I think I'm going to cut my hair off again. And I did, still dyeing it. Still dyeing it, Karen. Okay. You hear me? I'm still not embracing because I knew I had a lot of gray, but I was like, I'm not interested in that. And I also didn't want to appear to be Taj's grandma. I was like, I don't want anybody being like, oh, is that your grandbaby? Because I had gray hair. Right? I'm like, no, that's my child. So I practice African traditional religion. I've been practicing Ifa since 98. And in the tradition, I was going to be going through a initiation and ritual. And we traveled to Nigeria, and I was in Nigeria for 3 weeks. And when you go through this initiation, kind of like when you do an initiation, your head gets shaved. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting in a compound in Nigeria, and this elder priest is shaving my head. And I was like, however much gray is in my hair, I'm gonna embrace it. I'm going to rock with it. I'm going to do whatever. So we come back to the States, and I could feel the fuzz coming in, but I wasn't looking in the mirror yet. And then when I actually got to look in the mirror again at my reflection, it was all gray. I was like, oh, snap. I made that commitment, though. So I was like, okay, here we go. And so that was in 2013. I haven't, except for maybe, when I'm playing, like I've done the little hair wax thing as a, as fun, but I haven't put any permanent dye in my hair. I haven't had any relaxer in my hair since 95, and I haven't had any color in my hair since 2013.
How, if you don't mind me asking, this is going to obviously age you, but I mean, I wanted to ask specifically, like, how old were you when you made that decision? I'm going to embrace my gray, period.
I was 47.
47 when you was like, I'm in it.
47, yep. I was like, that's it.
Yo, so, okay, now this is getting interesting. Let's go back to, there was two things that I heard, right? So it's like, okay, you were willing to, like, I'll cut my hair and stop putting relaxer in it, but I'm not going to stop dyeing it.
Yep.
And I know because I heard the answer, because you was like, I don't want to appear as if I'm old, right? I don't want to appear like I'm my son's grandmother. So I'm thinking that's where we're going. But before, I don't want to assume, like, what was those emotions like of like making that continuous decision? I'm going to dye my hair. What were you trying to conceal? Was it aging? Was it like what kind of comments were you getting? What was all that?
I think that's a really good question. What was I trying to conceal? I've always had a lot of hair, and I've always been known by my hair. So I took pride in my hair looking a certain way. Even as I made the decision to go natural, like a lot of my friends were like, I cannot believe you just cut all your hair off and you're no longer going to relax your hair. I'm like, yeah. But the color, I think it's my own internalized ageism, because I think I look my age now. I think I look like a vibrant 54. I don't think that somebody looks at me and they're like, she look 35. I don't think that. No. I think I look like a vibrant 54, which is what I want to look like. I don't mind looking my age now. But I think when I was in my 30s and my 40s, I looked much younger. Like people were always like, how old are you? And like, I'm 36. And they were like, no, you're not. Or, when I was in my 40s, they were like, how old are you? Like, I'm 45. No, you're not. So you would get that thing and it kind of like, you feel good. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. I look younger. So looking younger is a good thing, right? It's the message. And if I stop dyeing my hair, then I might not be perceived as youthful, right? And so maybe that's going to be a problem. So this is me unpacking this now in real time and thinking about what were some of the internal messages that I started to unlearn, unwind, and be like, I don't think I want to keep that narrative inside my body. I don't think that that's serving me. I need to be curious about that. I need to interrogate that. And so this idea now that I'm much more into and try to be, honest around my journey with getting older and aging and the way my body is changing and the way my relationships are changing and like my perceptions of like what I can and cannot do and what I want to do, And so I do think that I was concealing partly my age, but also keeping this perception of youthfulness. Because if I dyed my hair, they were like, oh, we're the same age. You're like, no, I'm like 15 years older than you. They're like, no, you're not. So it's a really interesting thing now when I walk through, folk are like, your hair is so white. How old are you? And I'm like, I'll be 54. And they're like, okay. Okay. So I think it's still confusing to folk. I don't know. But I don't associate my gray hair with aging. I actually associate my gray hair with my parents. I associate it with family. I associate it with heritage and legacy. I associate it with my DNA. So every time I'm like this morning, I was, put my little afro puff up. I was looking in the mirror and I was like talking to my mom. I said, all right, Mary Burney, I see you in the mirror this morning. I see you, mommy, and so I love that now. And that feels good. And then, getting older is dynamic. There are days when it's like, I'm so glad to be here and I'm so glad to be getting older and I'm so glad to be gifted with more opportunities to learn about myself, to be healthier, to be more loving, to be more compassionate. And there are days you're like, this is not for jokers. Aging is not for jokers. It's not for suckers. Sometimes you wake up and you're like, woo, that's new. That's new. I don't feel about that. I don't like that.
Yeah, get up too fast. Crack all this.
Seriously, you be like, and then you call your friends. Like I FaceTime with my girlfriends all the time. I'm like, yo, I was walking down the steps looking crazy this morning. They were like, I know. So it's also in our minds. We're the hip hop generation. We're Gen X.
Right.
So in my mind, I'm like whopping it out to Dougie Fresh, but my body's like, you might catch a cramp. Don't walk too hard. You're like, you're right. Let me just be easy. Let me be
Let me
easy.
two-step this out real quick.
Play that, yeah.
Yo, so I mean, we hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think some of my things were starting to gray at 25, and it's very much mixed at this point. But it was just a big. It was the perception of being old, right? And or just like people would say stuff to me like, man, who's stressing you out? You know what I mean?
Who's stressing you
out?
Yeah, I've heard.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, damn. You know what I mean? But it was always to me about my hereditary. My grandfather grayed early. My father grayed early. So I kind of just caught wind of it. And some of the things that I kind of want to lead into next is health, because you started to really talk about, you started to associate your gray with with your heritage and your bloodline and your appearance and your uniqueness and how you show up in the world. I think that's a very powerful message that I'm trying to change the perception on with my ventures. But I wanted to explicitly ask you, for the tips and the tricks and the game for other black women and other black men of how you have managed to maintain your healthy, vibrant gray. Not only your hair, but the things that you do for your self-care, your body, everything that kind of, because people think like you throw some grease in your hair, you good, but it's like it's a lifestyle. You know what I mean? For real,
it's a lifestyle. It's not. That grease will sit right on top.
Yeah. So talk to me about the lifestyle and self-care that you do, that you feel impacts just like how you show up, and then some of the things that you do specifically do for your hair.
I love this question because I feel like I've been on a journey around lifestyle and health, right? So one of my favorite things to say is like I was a terrible vegetarian. Like I tried, I really did, but I also I don't necessarily like to cook. I do cook. And when I want to cook, I do cook well, but I'm not necessarily someone who's like, ooh, I really want to cook. And like when I cook, it's because I love you, right? So it's like, I want to cook something for you, right? That kind of thing. Okay. When I was a vegetarian, when my oldest son was younger, I was like a one-trick pony. Like I had a very limited, my menus were very limited, and to this day, Che won't eat couscous because I couscoused him to death as a kid. Like, who even eats this? I was like, we do. But anyway, I went through a journey of trying to figure out, which is again, I think, in alignment with my political education and being in social justice. It's like, oh, well, what am I actually eating? What am I putting in my body? How am I treating my body? What are the things that are in my home? I'm definitely a mind, body, spirit kind of person. I want things to be in alignment. So as I was growing and learning about what alignment looks for me, I tried a lot of different things, right? So it's like, let's remove this from my diet and let's incorporate this, or let's remove this from my home and let's incorporate this. So there were a lot of things I did energetically and physically to shift things. So like I stopped eating pork, I stopped eating red meat. And then we went through a period where we were not eating any meat and we were just doing, the vegetarian thing. And then in my house, I have altars because I interact on a daily basis with my ancestors. So I have a very deep, deep relationship with my ancestors. In our family, even though when I go home, I go to our home church. I enjoy going to our home church because it's a part of who I am. It's a part of my upbringing. My family knows that I don't practice Christianity anymore, but they see me as the person who holds our genealogy and holds our ancestors. And so they'll be like, cousin, let me ask you a question. Or listen, I want to do this thing. I'm like, so I have become a person of support, especially for my cousins who are closer to my age. Like we talk all the time, and we talk about different things that we can do to honor our family, to honor our ancestry, to honor our parents who passed away or our grandparents who passed away. So I'm very much an energy person. too. And I am absolutely a therapy person. So let me say something to all of the Black folk listening to this conversation. When everything went down in 2018 and I felt like I hit that wall, I'm so grateful that I have a good therapist. Like that, my therapist walked with me through the process of figuring out what I wanted to do to take care of myself and to be creative. And I'm still seeing my therapist. And, you know, when we went into the pandemic, he was like, how do you want to do this? I was like, can we do this every 2 weeks? And he was like, yes, we can do this every 2 weeks. And at some point last year, right around when George Floyd was murdered, he stopped charging. He was like, you know, he's an older guy. He's like in his 60s. I've been a therapist for over 40 years. He's like, I don't actually need the money. And there are certain patients that I like am very invested in their well-being, and you're one of those people. So for the foreseeable future, don't worry about paying me. And I was like, are you sure? Because he was already giving me like a friends and family rate because my insurance didn't cover it. And he was like, I'm sure. And so it's good to have a therapist who's invested in my mental health and well-being. It's good to have a spiritual practice that grounds me and keeps me connected to this world that we're living in and connected to my ancestors. And it's also important to me, like you were teasing me about my kombucha.
Like, what you know about it? Put me
What you know about these busy. I love kombucha. I do. The first time I saw kombucha, somebody was making it at their house and they had the mother plant. And I was like, why do you have an extraterrestrial on your kitchen table? And they were like, it's not an extraterrestrial. I'm making kombucha. I'm like, duly noted. They're like, you want to try it? I was like, no, thank you. No, thank you. And here we go 15 years later. I love kombucha. So there are things that I have, you know, I just continue to, and Carrie, I listen to my body.
Okay.
My body is amazing. Mm-hmm. My body is amazing. And I mean it in this way that my body every day gives me information around what she needs. Every day. Girl, you need more sleep. You didn't get enough sleep last night. You need to rest. Listen, you ate way too much sugar over the weekend, so you need to dial it back. You need to chill this week. You need to do something different. Right. You know what? You are thirsty. You are way dehydrated. Your tongue is looking mighty white. You need to be drinking some water. Mm-hmm. You know, so I listen to my body, you know, and I'm not always kind to my body. And so I feel like being in a practice of listening to my body is also me apologizing to my body when there are times I'm feeling like I'm not treating you well, I'm not resting, or I'm not eating well, or I'm not moving. And I apologize because you're amazing and I want you to be old and amazing. I don't, you know, I want us to ride this thing out for a long time. So what we gonna do today? Oh, what we gonna do is we're gonna take this walk, or we're gonna do this yoga, or we're gonna unplug from, you know, the matrix. We're going to disconnect from the matrix and take a break. You know, we're going to go to I'm going to the beach this weekend for my birthday.
As you should.
I'm so excited. I'm going to put my feet in the sand.
As you should.
I'm bringing some fruit and some flowers. We're going to do some ritual. We're going to be like, thank you for me being here another year.
Right.
Thank you. Give thanks. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my kids.
Right.
Thank you for this community of people that I'm connecting with. And we're going to eat good food and just chill.
I like that. Well, this is our last one. I know I don't want to hold you too tough. I have a 10:30 as well. Let's sign off with, like, I really want to almost like be able to edit this portion, right? And just use it as a statement piece, right? So there, you know, you're well familiar that I have this group called Black Gray Hair on Facebook. There's about 2,000 people in this group, and there was a particular comment from this young lady who was like, look, I know this group is all about embracing your gray and all that, but like, do y'all ever feel like insecure about it? Like, do y'all ever feel a way, you know what I mean, about your gray? And you know, with the title of this series being Choose Greatness, we're going to talk to a bunch of great people who are rocking their beautiful gray hair and embracing it. what would be your message to anybody who's kind of struggling or riding the emotional roller coaster of gray hair, and about how you made that transition from like dyeing it, trying to conceal this perspective of being old, to connecting it and thinking about it in a new way? What would be your message? Your choose greatness message, so to speak.
I love this, my choose greatness message. I had a dear friend when I first started locking my hair, and I was frustrated because my hair wasn't locking the way I thought it would. And he gifted me with something that I think about with gray hair too. He's like, everything that is inside of you, your ancestry, your health, your beliefs about yourself, the way you take care of yourself, is going to come out in your hair. And I was like, oh, what? And he was like, you're going to meet different parts of yourself you've never met before, because it's going to come out in your hair. The parts of your hair that's super kinky, the parts of your hair that's curly, the parts of your hair that's straight, the parts of your hair where you're like, I don't even know what's going on with this. It's all you. It's all you. Everything that's inside of you is coming out here. I believe the same thing around gray hair. And choosing greatness is like, first is choosing you. Everything that's inside of me, everything that's inside of you, is coming out in your hair, right? And every day, more parts of you are being revealed, right? The way you're changing, the way you're growing, the way you're being invited to love yourself better, to treat yourself better, to be kinder to yourself, right? Comes out in this gray hair. And so people always ask, what products are you using? Do you have a special ritual or things? You know, I'm just trying to be good to myself. And it sounds so flippant sometimes, but truthfully, choosing greatness means I'm choosing me. I'm choosing to love me the way I'm choosing to interrogate when I'm not kind to myself. Well, where did that come from? Why am I not being kind to myself? I'm my best thing. So why am I not being kind to myself? And then choosing the things that I put inside my body or on my body that is representative of how I feel about that. Okay, well, this is great. So that's why I love Manhattan Gray, because when I found your product, I was like, oh, okay, this is going to be specifically for me. It's going to be added to the things that I'm doing, the water I'm drinking, the rest I'm trying to get, the products I don't use, because gray grabs everything. So if I accidentally put something in my hair that's not supposed to be there, it will look crazy. It'll be green or it'll be purple. You're like, no. So being mindful, and I'm choosing to love up on everything that's inside of me that's coming out on top of my head.